The Committee of Both Kingdoms was a committee set up during the English Civil War by the Parliamentarian faction in association with representatives from the Scottish Covenanters, after they made an alliance in late 1643, when the Scottish army entered England by invitation of the English Parliament in January 1644. The Parliamentary Committee of Safety was replaced by an ad hoc committee representative of both kingdoms which, by parliamentary ordinance of 16 February, was formally constituted as the Committee of Both Kingdoms. The English contingent consisted of 7 peers and 14 commoners. Its object was the management of peace overtures to or making war on the king. It was conveniently known as the Darby House Committee from 1647, when the Scots withdrew, its influence long reduced by the growth of the armies. It was dissolved by Parliament on 7 February 1649 and replaced by the Council of State. A subcommittee on Irish affairs met from 1646 to 1648. The subcommittee spent in Ireland money raised by the Committee of Both Houses. Creation. On 9 January 1644, the Estates of Scotland sitting in Edinburgh arranged for a special commission to go to London with full powers to represent the Scottish Estates. The Special Commission had 4 members: Earl of Loudoun, High Chancellor of Scotland; Lord Maitland, already in London as Scottish Commissioner to the Westminster Assembly; Lord Warriston, due in London as a Commissioner to the Westminster Assembly; Robert Berkeley, Provost of Irvine in Ayrshire. The 4 Scottish commissioners presented the commission from Scottish Estates to the English Parliament on 5 February, on the 16th, so that the 2 kingdoms should be joined in their councils as well as in the forces. The English Parliament passed an ordinance to form a joint committee of the 2 kingdoms, to sit with the 4 Scottish commissioners. The ordinance named 7 members from the House of Lords and 14 from the House of Commons to sit on the committee, and ordained that 6 were to be a quorum, always in the proportion of 1 lord to 2 commoners, and of the Scottish commissioners meeting with them 2 were to be a quorum. The 7 members appointed from among the House of Lords were Algernon, Earl of Northumberland, one of the Peace Lords. In 1642 he was dismissed as Lord High Admiral, and in 1643 headed the parliamentary delegation to negotiate with the King at Oxford. Robert, Earl of Essex, in 1642 became the first Captain General of the Parliamentary Army, but was overshadowed by the ascendancy of Oliver Cromwell and resigned in 1646, dying later the same year. Robert, Earl of Warwick, from 1642 Lord High Admiral, appointed by Parliament. In 1648 he captured the castles of Walmer, Deal, and Sandown for Parliament. Edward, Earl of Manchester, in August 1643 was appointed Major General of the Parliamentary Forces in the East, with Cromwell as his deputy. He was in command at Marston Moor, but later fell out with Cromwell, and in November 1644 opposed continuing the war. William, Viscount Saint-Seal, was mainly responsible for passing the self-denying ordinance through the House of Lords, and by 1648 wanted a negotiated settlement with the king. He retired into private life after Charles's execution. Philip, Lord Wharton, a Puritan and a favourite of Oliver Cromwell, was one of the youngest members of the committee. John, Lord Roberts, with the self-denying ordinance of April 1645 he lost his command in Plymouth and was sidelined. Shocked by the execution of the king, he withdrew from public life, but after the Restoration he became Lord Privy Seal and later Lord Lieutenant of Ireland. The 14 members appointed from the House of Commons were William Pierpont, a Member of Parliament for Great Wenlock, represented Parliament in negotiations with the King at Oxford in 1643 and at Uxbridge in 1645. Henry Vane the Elder, a former Secretary of State and a member for Wilton. Sir Philip Stapleton, a colonel of horse who commanded the Earl of Essex's bodyguard and a brigade of cavalry at the Battle of Edge Hill, a member for Boroughbridge. Sir William Waller, a strict Presbyterian and a Major General of the Parliamentary Forces, one of the members for Andover. Sir Gilbert Gerard, a member for Middlesex, Paymaster of the Parliamentary Army and from 1648 to 1649 Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. Sir William Emine, a member for Grantham, later a member of the Council of State. Sir Arthur Hazelrigg, a Knight of the Shire for Leicestershire. Following the Restoration he was imprisoned in the Tower of London and died there. Henry Vane the Younger, a member for Hull, although he took no part in the regicide, in 1662 he was charged with high treason and beheaded. John Crewe, a member for Brackley and a Justice of the Peace, was later created Baron Crewe by King Charles II. Robert Wallop, a member for Andover, was later one of the commissioners who sat in judgment at the trial of Charles I. Oliver St. John, a barrister and judge who was married to a cousin of Oliver Cromwell. He was a member for Totnes and became Solicitor General. Oliver Cromwell, a member for Cambridge, later Lord Protector. Samuel Brown, a member for Clifton, Dartmouth and Hardness. Sergeant John Glynn, a member for Westminster and Recorder of London. David Masson states that the Earl of Essex, the Lord General, was opposed to the formation of the committee as it was constituted because there can be no doubt that the object was that the management of the war should be less in Essex's hands than it had been. Administration. The committee met in Derby House at 3 o'clock every day of the week, including Sundays. Attendance in 1644 was patchy, since before the enactment of the self-denying ordinance, many of the members of the committee had commands in the field. Warwick, for example, was the Lord High Admiral. The more active and influential members on the committee were Lord Wharton and Henry Vane the Younger, and Lord Warriston for the Scots. The committee had to accommodate several factions within its ranks, and jealousies and personal animosities between some of its members, such as Waller and Essex. It was also subject to control by Parliament. Its greatest achievement was the establishment of the new model army, and the maintenance of this army and other forces in the field until King Charles was defeated in 1646. The committee provided a continuity of policy and administration which the king could not match. Dissolution. The committee ceased to sit in 1648, when it was said that the Scots broke the alliance and supported King Charles I during the Second Civil War. In truth, the committee had started to break down much earlier due to several factors. Some members of the English Parliament did not like the influence the committee gave to the Scots in Ireland. The Scots in turn resented the fact that, although the committee held ultimate responsibility for foreign policy, diplomats supposedly representing the Confederation of the Solemn League and Covenant began to sign treaties in the name of England rather than in the name of the League. The first of these was with Denmark in 1645. The notion that the Scots broke the treaty in 1648 denies the factionalism that took place within the English Parliament during the previous year, leading the more entrenched Presbyterians in both Scotland and England to lose power within the respective parliaments within months of each other. Thus, when the independents seized control in England, they found that the Scottish English Parliament had been won over to the faction of the Engages and the Duke of Hamilton from the Kirk party and the Marquess of Argyll. In January 1648, shortly after the engagement between Scotland and King Charles I became known to the English Parliament, parliamentary members broke off negotiations with King Charles, passing the vote of no addresses that prohibited any further negotiations between members of Parliament with the King until such time as the vote was repealed. Parliament also dissolved the Committee of Both Kingdoms and conferred its powers on the English members of the committee. The Reconstituted Committee, with the addition of 3 independent members, was at first known as the Committee of Safety but became known as the Derby House Committee.